we talked a bit about veterinary colleges. We tried to find out how much instruction was in veterinary colleges about nutrition, and it was a really mixed bag. I mean, some veterinary colleges have required courses in nutrition. Some have elective courses. Some have no courses at all. Some of them get their instruction largely from people coming from a pet food company that will spend a couple of weeks with their students. It's a really mixed bag. And so we also found cases where there was sponsored research in a veterinary college. It wasn't at Cornell, but it was at another veterinary college where the pet food company sponsored the research and they couldn't publish the research. We found the kind of research situation around dog and cat nutrition today kind of a mixed bag. Pet food companies do a lot to try to influence veterinary students. I mean, veterinary students practically around the world get free pet food as long as they're veterinary students from some pet food company. This was at Cornell where Hills was distributing pet food to veterinary students. A number of other schools will take it and sell it they'll get the pet food and then they'll sell it at a discount and use it to support activities of their veterinary student associations and so forth. So but practically everybody does this, not just in the United States, but our friends in Australia and South Africa and England, the same thing happens. So we found there was not very much discussion about this issue of industry influence on veterinary education. Our students, and some of you might be veterinary students here at Cornell, at one time at least, you were in the fall, you would get backpacks and you would get meals and you would get lots of things from various pet food companies, which they're trying to be nice to you because they hope you'll be nice to them eventually someday. And medical schools have tried to confront this in recent years, and they've had a lot of discussion about policies that talk about gifts from industry to physicians and students and so forth. But we found there was very little discussion of that in veterinary colleges, and I talked to a lot of associate deans around the country about this issue, and they said, well, you know, veterinary schools are not supported all that well, not like medical schools are, and this helps us a lot in trying to have some various programs and so forth. And they say we really don't have much choice but to try to kind of work with this. And they say we try to let people know, we try to be open about it so that it's not hidden that this is happening, and that's the way they try to deal with it. So
we ended up writing a book that kind of answered questions and solved and kind of addressed our own curiosity about what pet food was about. I started knowing absolutely nothing about it, and I had lots of questions, one of which was, what on earth did pets eat before there was commercial pet food? Somehow dogs and cats survived. How did they do that? So we have a chapter about that, several chapters about that. Because of my own interest in food politics, I was particularly interested in what the pet food industry was about. The pet food industry is an industry that generates $18 billion a year in the United States alone. And it's overall, pets are about a 45 to 50 billion a year industry. This is a huge, huge, huge industry with a lot of money at stake. So we were really interested in who made the pet food, because we already knew that one company made 95 different brands. Who else made it? How did they make it? We were very curious about that. We wanted to know what was in it. We had read a lot of books about all the poisons that were in pet food, and we were really curious to know how it was made. So we did a big analysis of the ingredients that are in there. And again, because of my own interest in food politics, I was very concerned about the regulation of pet food, and we ended up spending a lot of time trying to figure out the complicated regulatory system that involves state and federal feed control officials, the FDA, and the FDA's Center for Veterinary Medicine. We ended up thinking that the regulatory system, which everybody in the industry thinks works just fine, maybe didn't work as fine as they thought it did. We were pretty sure there was a lot of research about pet food. If we made one really gross error going into this, it was thinking that there was going to be a lot of research. As it turned out, there wasn't so much. But we thought we could write a scientifically based book about pet food and try to do it in a pretty sober and thoughtful way, and that would be a useful contribution. Obviously huge, because Menu Food turns out to be a company, a contract company, that made 95 different brands of pet food. So the first big shock was that all pet foods are made at the same place. Or, to put it another way, all pet foods are practically identical. So that was kind of interesting and informed our research. We had this suspicious all along that all pet foods are really pretty much alike. They're like baby food. You know, from a nutritional standpoint, they all have to meet the same standards. And so we were very, very curious about the distinctions in the products and whether you could really tell whether one product was better than another by reading its label.
We were also surprised about the research issues now with pet foods. Years ago, there used to be a lot of research going on with dogs and cats, particularly dogs. I mean, the early work in nutrition was done with dogs as experimental animals. And, well, things have changed, of course, over the years. The rules for how you can house pets and the kind of facilities that you need to have certainly would make that barn completely unacceptable to do this kind of thing today. And what you have today are mainly, and so you don't find many universities that have these kind of facilities that can carry on fairly large-scale research with dogs and cats. University of California, Davis has a big cat facility that they do quite a lot of work on. But these university facilities for doing substantial work on nutrition of dogs and cats have kind of disappeared for some of the kind of reasons there. The facilities are very expensive and they take a lot of time.